If you're a Golden Dazer, if you watch this show consistently, you've heard me say the adage, great things happen when Jonathan Kuminga plays. And it rings true. It rang true again tonight. Unfortunately, great things didn't happen for the Golden State Warriors because Kaminga was one of the only guys doing anything out there. And the Golden State Warriors have now lost 12 of 15. They're reeling. They're officially a 500 team now. Oh, these aren't good times. Besides the fact that we're going to talk about the Warriors and the Clippers, we're coming to you live on Friday night, we're also going to talk about Kaminga. And the reason why we're going to talk about him isn't just because of the performance. He had easily the best player for the Warriors tonight, and we'll obviously cover in detail his performance. He was fantastic. But we're also going to talk about where the Warriors could trade him, because this ain't working. I was watching the NBC Sports Bay Area post-game show right after the Warriors game concluded. Side note, the great Tim Roy filling in for Bob Fitzgerald, wherever Fitz is. I hope he's okay. I'm guessing it's a holiday break for him. The dude has a lot of kids, has a beautiful family. And this game sucked. Sorry. The point is, I was watching the post-game show, and I heard Bonte Hill spewing the usual line. We're going to break down what went wrong for this team. No, you're not. You're never going to be honest about what's truly wrong with this team. However, I do have to give Festus Ezeli, former Warrior center. He was the backup center on the 2015 championship team. So a lot of reverence there, a lot of sentimentality there for Festus. And he actually did say something that is true. That is not just Warriors propaganda. The Warriors looked small out there. Those were his words. We actually heard a genuine critique from the Warriors flagship TV network. The point is, yeah, they look small. They've got issues. We're going to talk about where Kaminga could be traded. There's only one team. Folks, I don't know if you're going to like hearing what I have to say in terms of the most logical, ideal destination for Jonathan Kuminga. But if we're going to be living in this sad reality, which is Steve Kerr just being safe in terms of job security, having no accountability for the endless buffoonery that is Steve Kerr's leadership since 2020, save for, being the head coach in 2022. And again, if you want to credit him, my response will be, what did he do that year besides giving Damian Lee and Juan Toscano-Anderson way too many minutes and surviving that? No, that was Stephen Curry's greatness in 2022. The Warriors are in danger of missing the playoffs for the fourth time in the last 6 years. Yet despite that, no accountability. So with that said, with that reality in mind, I'm going to share with you where Kaminga can go so that the Warriors will not be total losers in the trade. Because if you're going to keep him, this is what you have to do with him. You have to give him minutes, and he has to play. But you have a head coach who's utterly obtuse, utterly stubborn, pretty much clueless. I mean, a 6'1" Dennis Schroeder as your shooting guard, that's him. That's a Steve Kerr production. So I'm going to present to you the trade or trades. There's going to be a few options, a few variances there, but it's the same team that Jonathan Kuminga could be sent to where the Warriors are not total losers in the process. Steve Kerr will be happy. You have assets for the present and future. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Warriors. I'll obviously, bring anyone on the show tonight if you want to join. If you're frustrated, if you're bitter, if you're pissed, I get it. I just did a 4-minute cold open, folks. That's not good programming, yet this is where we are. Let's break down the Golden Days. Let's break down the Warriors and Clippers postgame, and let's talk about what the Warriors can do with Jonathan Kuminga, because keeping him, what's the point? Steve Kerr has no idea how to use him. Steve Kerr will not play him unless GP2, Steph, and Dre are out. This is a mess. How can they fix it? Let's talk about it. It's the Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Woo! Let's go! In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
Welcome to the Golden Days. I'm your host for the evening, Cyrus Saatsaz, and Mufia East Bay. I'm looking right at your face, more specifically the camera, and I'm telling you, Jonathan Kuminga can play defense, all right? Hope that makes you happy. You can follow me on Threads, on Instagram, @DogWild. I'm over on Twitter, @SurfJournalist. The program's on all social media platforms, @GoldenDaysPod. Tonight's episode brought to you by, let's start off with Vitamin Energy. The healthiest way to get an energy boost. Forget Red Bull, forget 5 Hour and all the other stuff. There is an actual energy booster out there that will not only just jack you up so you're ready to take on the day, but it's actually filled with nutrition, with content that will not toxify your body. And that's Vitamin Energy. Go healthy with your energy boosters. And if you use the promo code Golden Days, days spelled like dazed and confused, you'll get a 20% discount. Make sure you put that promo code in at checkout. Again, Golden Days, one word. It doesn't matter if you put caps or not. You can also go to the URL vitaminenergy.com/Golden Days for your 20% discount. Today's episode is also brought to you by BetOnline, who continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, whether you're talking football, the NBA, college hoops, NHL, UFC, and so much more. Head to BetOnline today, and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE. It's spelled BLEAV. It's the name of the network we're on, and if you use that promo code, you'll get a welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline. The game starts here. Again, the Golden State Warriors, final in this one. They lose for the 12th time in the last 15 games. The final in this one, 102-92, a game that seemed out of reach, seemed over after the third quarter. The Warriors were in this one at the half. They only trailed 49-43, just a 6-point deficit. The Clippers open it up in the third quarter. They expand that 6-point lead to 19, and then the Warriors fight back in the fourth. And we'll start with the player of the game, and that is Jonathan Kuminga. Today, and the player of the game is brought to you by Vitamin Energy once again. Make sure you use the promo code Golden Days for 20% off, or go to vitaminenergy.com/Golden Days to get that discount. And again, the player of the game tonight, Jonathan Kuminga, the young player who's just recently turned 22 a couple months ago, the second youngest player on the Warriors roster, behind just Brandon Podziemski, who himself will turn 22 in a month and change. Kaminga played lights out tonight, 36 minutes, 46 seconds of play. He was 11 of 19 from the field, 1 of 3 from beyond the arc. He even made his free throws, folks. He had 14 free throw attempts in this game, making 11 of them. He even grabbed rebounds. He had 10 of those. He was even passing the ball, getting other teammates involved, had 5 assists in this game, only committed 1 foul in this game, had 3 turnovers. Well, at 36 minutes, that's not so bad. Not great, but not bad either. Had 2 steals and a block as well. 34 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists for Jonathan Kuminga. He is your player of the game. Unfortunately, that did not come in a win. And the Warriors tonight did not have Stephen Curry. They did not have Draymond Green. They did not have Gary Payton II, although GP2 does not matter at all. But nonetheless, the Warriors without Steph and Dre. I'll say this first and foremost. When those two are out, and I think this applies a lot more to Draymond Green missing. Stephen Curry, I can watch play no matter what, all day, every day. But there is a good energy with this squad when those guys are out. Now, the problem is, unlike in previous iterations of the Warriors starting 5, when Steph and Draymond are out, usually you'd see Podziemski starting, usually you'd see Kaminga starting. We used to see Moses Moody starting games early in the season, and we saw a reversion tonight to the veterans, right? Steve Kerr clearly has trust issues with young basketball players who do not dribble the ball like a point guard, like a traditional point guard. I bring that up because Brandon Podziemski typically seems to get minutes comfortably. But tonight, he did it. He went with the starting 5 that included Dennis Schroeder, and we're going to talk about him because this was Schroeder's 5th game with the Warriors, and his net rating through those 5 games, and I know this is a subjective stat, it tells just a part of the overall story, but I don't know what part of the story with Schroeder is necessarily positive. But the net rating for him through 5 games, minus 77. Obviously, that could change, but that's not a good start. And Dennis Schroeder, 3 of 11 from the field. He was 0 of 6 from the three-point line. I think he's only made 3 three-pointers since joining the Warriors so far. Had just 1 trip to the free throw line, played 23 minutes, did have 5 assists in this game, but 7 points for Dennis Schroeder. That trade, and again, on nearly, I do not take pleasure in being negative, folks. I don't, like when the Dennis Schroeder trade happened, and you saw me not be that enthused about it, right? And I think I was the only one. Everyone else was just jumping up with jubilation, like, we got the guy that will solve all the Warriors' woes. All we needed was a replacement for DeAnthony Melton, and we'll be fine. No, you won't. Dennis Schroeder has not been the answer. And again, I don't take pleasure in dropping these reality bombs and bursting bubbles of hope and aspirations. But Dennis Schroeder, I don't know why anyone would ever think he's the answer. He's not a scorer by default. I know he was having a career year putting up 18 a game in Brooklyn, but as I told you folks, that was with him playing 36 minutes. And as you saw with Kaminga, if you give people minutes, they're obviously going to have a lot more opportunities to put up numbers. Schroeder was averaging 36 minutes a game, scoring 18 points. Jonathan Kuminga played 36 minutes tonight, scored 34 points. That's the kind of output you want to see from a 36-minute night. Nonetheless, the Dennis Schroeder experiment is not going well. The guy cannot shoot threes, and I've never known him as being a three-point shooter. Regardless of feistiness and tenacity, which seems to be the adjectives that have described Schroeder's defensive game, he's still 6'1". So I do not understand why folks were thinking that he's going to be some game changer. And the sad thing for the Warriors is by committing that trade, and folks, whether or not you want to hear this, whether or not you want to believe this, Dorian Finney-Smith was available. He would have been a much bigger upgrade than Dennis Schroeder. Cam Johnson was available, and he would have been a drastically huge upgrade than Dennis Schroeder. And contrary to the reports, which were non-existent because Mark Stein used careful verbiage like the Nets most likely wanted Kaminga in a deal for Cam Johnson, and that's the furthest I ever saw in terms of that being a true story. That was not a true story. There were no reports saying that the Nets wanted Kaminga for Cam Johnson. All I saw were a bunch of people posting clickbait, hoping to get some attention. In reality, if the Warriors really wanted Cam Johnson, they could have gotten him. It might have cost a little more than what they paid for Dennis Schroeder. You could have gotten Cam Johnson without giving up Kaminga. But this is a Steve Kerr team. This roster, this team, the personnel, it's all catered around him because right now the Warriors, when we're talking about Joe Lacob, when we're talking about Mike Dunleavy Jr., they look to Steve Kerr as the smart guy in the room. That is their biggest failing by far, and they do so because they're comfortable with him, because they want championships together, and they're in their bubble. They lack the perspective, especially the outside perspective, and they're lacking what they should be seeing with this team, which is they're tiny, they lack scorers, they lack playmakers, and they're directionless. They're wandering aimlessly in an ocean with a ship whose engine is dead, and the captain, Steve Kerr, pretends like he knows exactly what he's doing. No, he doesn't. He has no clue. And this is the evidence right here. They've lost 12 of 15. They got a guy like Dennis Schroeder, which made no damn sense. And this is the result that you're seeing. So and tonight's game, the Warriors, on a night where we should have been seeing, like Brandon Podziemski, I don't mind him playing the point, okay? My issue with him, and where you see him struggling, is when he's placed in these positions where he's expected to defend the opposing team's best guards. He's expected to play a role of shooting guard, which in a traditional lineup requires scoring. That's not his game. Brandon Podziemski's game is being a point guard and having a size advantage and being able to muscle the smaller guys that he's oftentimes matched up with. And I thought we were going to see Podziemski start tonight. We did not. He came off the bench. Dennis Schroeder started. Buddy Hield started. That experiment has gone to absolute shit. All the good vibes that came with Buddy Hield to start the season, poof, bye-bye, peace out. Doesn't exist anymore. Buddy Hield tonight, 2 of 8 from the field, 1 of 6 from deep. He had 9 rebounds, bizarrely enough, but 5 points. Buddy Hield was brought in to be not just a floor spacer. He was expected to come in here and score some damn points. And he was doing so at the start of the season, has not been doing so since. 5 points from your starting shooting guard. Yet Steve Kerr starting him. Why? I'll try to play some sound tonight if I got it. Andrew Wiggins. There's a lot of folks out there who think he should be untradeable, that the team should keep him no matter what. That when we talk about, for example, Jimmy Butler, a player who I'm not strongly advocating for, by the way. I wouldn't mind him, though. He'd be a drastic upgrade from Andrew Wiggins. But you still have folks out there that don't want to see him moved. You have Steve Kerr, who last season, before the trade deadline, when the team was open to trading him, trying to move him, yet Steve Kerr fighting for him, vouching for him, and convinced the front office not to trade him. And on a night where you don't have Stephen Curry, on a night where you don't have Draymond Green, you're kind of expecting your third best player, which I think consensus would say is Andrew Wiggins. He plays 23 minutes tonight, and the minutes are limited because he was completely ineffective out there. 5 points. 5 points from Andrew Wiggins on a night where they desperately need him because Steph and Draymond Green are out. 5 points. 2 of 11 shooting from the field total. He only put up 3 3-point attempts, only made 1 of those, only had 2 rebounds. No one's talking about, by the way, Andrew Wiggins' rebounding numbers. He's only averaging barely above 4 a game. I don't know why all the focus is on Jonathan Kuminga's rebounding. And look, I get it. They need Kaminga to rebound, but they also need Wiggins to rebound. He's only averaging 0.1. That probably went down to 4.0 after tonight's game because he only grabbed 2 rebounds in this game. A minus 16 net rating. 5 points. For an individual considered by many to be the second best player on this team, unacceptable. You can't justify that. I don't know how you can justify that. A game earlier, he lets Austin Reeves, not exactly the fastest, most athletic player in the NBA, just blow by him. Yeah, if you've ever seen the movie Major League, you'll understand this reference very, very clearly. If you haven't, it's one of the greatest comedies ever, one of the greatest sports movies ever. Andrew Wiggins said to Austin Reeves at the end of that Lakers game, "Here's some Olay bullshit," meaning he just let him walk by, gave him the Olay treatment. We don't want that Olay bullshit on this Warriors team. Yeah, that's what we saw at the end of the last game, and tonight, 5 points. How are we justifying that? Why is Andrew Wiggins untouchable if he's only putting up 5 points in games that the Warriors desperately need to win and desperately need him to show up for? Kyle Anderson, who was DNP'd last game, inexplicably, tonight gets the start over Jonathan Kuminga. I like Kyle Anderson minutes. That was a good move. Props. He only played 14 minutes, 47 seconds, though. Steve Kerr clearly does not trust him either. Steve Kerr clearly has trust issues, and that includes Kyle Anderson, who, again, the box score will rarely, if ever, properly paint the picture of Kyle Anderson's contributions. He's just one of those dudes, a Draymond Green type player where he's making his influence felt everywhere except for the box score. So Kyle Anderson, only played 14 minutes, 47 seconds. In those 14 minutes and change, he was 2 of 4 from the field, had 2 3-point attempts, made 1 of them, that's 50%, did grab 6 rebounds in just 14 minutes, 47 seconds of play, even had 2 steals in this game. But again, we only saw him for 14 minutes. Someone tell me why. Someone tell me why. And then the only starter that actually showed up tonight, and naturally it's one of the young guys, because, again, I love the young guys. Pajemski, Kaminga, Moody, Trace. If they had a coach that actually not just believed in them, but knew how to treat and develop young players, I promise you, Dub Nation, we'd all be loving this right now. These would be good times right now. You see Steph and Draymond looking at the successors with glee. Instead, the Warriors have a head coach who has no clue what he's doing with young players and who has trust issues with young players, and all he's done is stunt their growth, which is why tonight we're going to talk about where Jonathan Kuminga should be traded for everyone's sake. Unless we start seeing consistent minutes for Kaminga moving forward. But we've seen this whole song and dance before, right? Kaminga has a great night, and then the next game he plays without any good reason, without any justification. Next game, you see him play maybe 20 minutes. Tomorrow, the Warriors will take on the Phoenix Suns. I'm very curious to see what Kuminga's minute total will be. Wouldn't surprise me if it ended up being like 23. in another Warriors loss. So that was your starting five. It was the bench that did almost all the work tonight. Trayce Jackson-Davis excluded, because Trayce Jackson-Davis, again, played 30 minutes in this game. 30 minutes, 48 seconds more specifically. 7 of 12 from the field for a player that led the team in field goal percentage last year. 15 points, 9 rebounds for Trayce Jackson-Davis, manning the middle, defending Zubac, who, in typical fashion for the Clippers, eating up the Warriors alive because they're a much smaller team. But Trayce Jackson-Davis held his own, so kudos there. Now, Steve White saying, no, I think Kaminga is going to play closer to 19 minutes tomorrow when the Warriors take on the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, I would agree with you there. And Berserk Monk, I agree with you as well, saying that Stephen Curry is going to have to save Steve Kerr's career tomorrow against the Suns. Well, is he? Actually, I don't know if I agree with that, because apparently Steve Kerr can just do whatever the hell he wants, and he's safe. He never has to face accountability because he happened to have the title head coach for 4 championship teams, even though he was not that responsible for them. But nonetheless, I wish I had Steve Kerr's job security. I will say that. I don't think he needs any saving. I think he'll go when he wants to go, and it's just, and all that does is torture Dub Nation. But unless you don't care about them losing, I care about them losing. I want winners. I want to see my team win. The bench of the Golden State Warriors stepped up tonight, though. Again, we mentioned Jonathan Kuminga. Kevon Looney had a quiet night. He just did not have a good game. Played 12 minutes, 3 seconds, had 0 points. Did grab 4 rebounds. But Brandon Pajemski, I thought he had a decent game. Again, you can't expect him to be a scorer. That is not who he is. He is a point guard. That's who he is. If you actually listen to all these individuals in terms of them telling you what positions they are, they'll tell you Kaminga's a 3, Draymond Green is a 4, Brandon Pajemski's a 1. And when you have a coach forcing these individuals to play out of position, you're not going to routinely get, on a consistent basis, positive results. It's asinine. So, anyway, so the bench had Pajemski putting up 10 points tonight. In 30 minutes of play, he was also 2 of 5 from deep. That's 40%. I believe that's 11 games and counting now where he's shot the 3 ball at a 40% or better clip. So it's nice to see the 3 shot falling again. He had 5 assists in this game, just 2 rebounds. And Pajemski, he's got the net rating thing figured out again, because on a night like this, he was a +6 out there. Moses Moody, is nice to see him back. He poured in 11 points off the bench, including a big 3 late in the game, but then he also had some unfortunate outcomes out there late in the game with the team trying to rally and come back. Kaminga drove the paint, attacked the rim, and then kicked it out to Moody for what should have been a fairly wide open, easy corner 3, but Moody just made no effort to catch a pass. That was not a great pass, but I don't know if it should have been turned over either. Nonetheless, whatever. It's just one play. Moses Moody played 24 minutes, 25 seconds, 4 of 11 from the field, 1 of 5 from deep. 11 points total, also a +6 in net rating, added 2 rebounds in this game, had 3 steals in this game. Nice to see Moses Moody back. I wish he got more consistent minutes. And then Lindy Waters, and I'm saying this one facetiously because last game the chat was filled with just a whole bunch of ignorant fools pretending that the Warriors losing to the Lakers was Jonathan Kuminga's fault. You're either like consuming information from the dumbest sources imaginable, or you just hate the kid. Because if you're going to point the finger at Kaminga for that Lakers game, pass along what you're smoking, please. I want some of that, because you must be high if you believe that. And I bring all that up because Lindy Waters tonight, 0 of 6 from the field. All 6 of those field goal attempts were 3-point shots. So he was 0 of 6 from deep, but his net rating was +16. So I guess he was the best player for the Warriors tonight, if you're going to rely on that stat, in the same way that Jonathan Kuminga was the worst player for the Warriors last game because of net rating. Anyways, I wholeheartedly agree with you that a lot of folks, the morons out there, unfortunately, I'm realizing they're in the fringe, but the fringe folks are typically the loudest. And anyways, G in the chat writing that the morons out there just regurgitate the same narratives that they hear over and over. And most of those narratives, again, are pro-Kerr narratives, because most of the quote-unquote media work for companies that are beholden to the Golden State Warriors. You're not going to get objective coverage from these folks. That includes NBC Sports Bay Area. That includes 95.7 The Game. They literally work for the Warriors. So do not take what they say seriously, because all those hosts are beholden to Steve Kerr. They're afraid of him. They don't want to piss him off. You're not going to get objective coverage as a result of that. So the bench collectively tonight putting up 55 of the Warriors' 92 points. The starting five laying a huge egg. We saw Quentin Post get some minutes tonight. He had one 3-point attempt, unfortunately missed it. But it was nice to see him at least out there in uniform. He does exist, folks. He's not a myth. He was actually drafted by the team, and he is actually on the roster, and we saw that tonight. So there is evidence that he is a real person, but he played the very, very end of the game. So that is what happened with the Golden State Warriors. I'm going to put the link in the chat if anyone wants to join me tonight. And then we're going to get to the Kaminga part in terms of where he's going. And actually, before I do that, and there's the link right there, let me see real fast if there's any sound that has come down from the team that someone has published, because I'd really love to hear which excuse Steve Kerr has made for tonight's loss. Before we do that as well, I also want to address real quickly Mike Brown, who was fired by the Sacramento Kings today. That is just a dumb decision. And look, if you're curious what I think about Mike Brown replacing Steve Kerr, sign me up. I'm all in, please. Either way, if there's any plan that brings Mike Brown back to the Golden State Warriors, sign me up. Those were some good years. And again, behind the scenes, he is one of the hardest working individuals on the planet. Mike Brown is someone who sleeps in his office. He literally has a pillow and blanket in the dude is a workaholic and epitomizes it. And he's also someone who's a very straight shooter, which could explain why him and the Kings parted ways. Whereas you could accuse Joe Lacob of being too loyal towards Steve Kerr. You could also make the same argument, except the reverse for Vivek. Is that his name? I forgot his name. I'm sorry. The owner of the Sacramento Kings, in terms of a lack of loyalty. And that would be my guess in terms of what happened here, that Mike Brown was being a little too honest about De'Aaron Fox, about possible roster moves. I'm not an expert on the Kings situation, so I'm just spitballing here. But regardless, if he comes to the Warriors, sign me up. I love it. Absolutely. Mark Medina, by the way, adding that Steve Kerr is the king of excuses. Let's hear those excuses. Anthony Slater of The Athletic posting this clip here. This is Steve Kerr brushing aside. Oh, my God. And again, you've heard me use this word, obtuse, when it comes to Steve Kerr. If you don't know what it means, look it up. And I guarantee you'll read the definition and go, oh, that's Steve Kerr. This is him trying to brush aside criticism of Dennis Schroeder. Do not pretend for a second that the Dennis Schroeder trade was a Mike Dunleavy Jr. production. That was all Steve Kerr, 100%. And so he's going to feel a little defensive about that. And here he is defending Dennis Schroeder's slow start on the Warriors. Here he is, Steve Kerr, following tonight's loss to the LA Clippers.
It's difficult to go to a new team in the middle of the season and not know your teammates very well. So it takes some time. He's still basically in training camp with our team. I mean, he's been here less than 2 weeks, I think. Played 4 or 5 games. So it's just going to take some time. But what you do is you trust who the player has been for 10 or 12 years. And you trust that he'll get comfortable and settle in, because it's a tiny sample size we're talking about. He also came to us at a time where we've been ice cold. So he needs shooting around him. He's a pick and roll player. We were 7 for 38 tonight from 3. So he's coming off pick and roll, making some plays. He's going to be fine.
I got to pause this for 1 second. The amount of excuses I'm hearing is absurd. I don't understand why this level of patience and support is rarely, if ever, espoused from Steve Kerr about his own players, specifically the 2021 draft picks, Kaminga and Moody. I don't think I've ever heard him say this much about either of those guys, but because he vouched for Dennis Schroeder, because he wanted Schroeder, and because he thinks this Hobbit crap is effective in a game where height matters, now you hear him making excuses for Dennis Schroeder's struggles. He literally just said that Schroeder is struggling in part because the rest of the team is struggling. Like it's contagious, like it's a virus. Give me a break. Let's hear the rest of this crap. It's becoming like a clown show, man, hearing this guy talk. Here's the rest of Steve Kerr.
But we've got to gain some confidence shooting the ball and find multiple guys in one game who get it going. That's the way to win in this league. You can't just rely on one guy. Tonight, JK was that guy. He was brilliant. I loved his game tonight. Just the purpose, the intent, the rebounding. He just played with force, and that's what we need from him. But last game it was Steph was that one guy. So we've got to get multiple guys, and that comes with confidence. We've obviously lost some confidence, but we're going to get it back. I've said this over and over again. I love this group. I love the competitive fire that they show. Tonight was a good example of that. And long season. We're back to square one. 12-3, 3-12. We're right in the thick of everything. I know it's tough when you're in a stretch like this, but we're where we need to be. We got to find it. We got to find the combinations. But that type of energy, that's what we need to turn this thing around.
Real fast here, JG638, who's making me repeat myself because apparently he didn't hear me the first time or second time or third time. Let me repeat myself again because JG638 is writing, according to NBA insiders Mark Stein and Jake Fisher, the Warriors would have to give up Kaminga for Cam Johnson. Let me repeat this again. They said most likely. Okay? It's important when people use those words because when you add the word most likely, it means I don't really know for sure, but most likely that's going to happen. Trust reports that are true reports. Do not pretend conjecture is fact, all right? And please stop making me repeat myself. I already said that like 3 times, okay? It was not a confirmed report. When someone uses a word like most likely, probably, that is just them giving themselves a pass to say whatever the hell they want to say. So, no, there was no hard report. And again, look at the rest of the landscape. Is the demand for Cam Johnson high? Are the Nets fighting off suitors for him? No. Same goes for a lot of these other teams. This is a rare buyer's market where you have a lot of teams tanking because of Cooper Flagg and some other prospects, and this is an opportunity for you to get assets without giving up a damn thing. 0 for 1. You swung and missed hard with Dennis Schroeder. You blew that one. The great news is, even though you lost 2 second-round picks and Reese Beekman for that nonsense trade, dumb trade. The good news is, under the new CBA, some actually good news when it comes to these rules and how it affects the Warriors. They could trade Dennis Schroeder again, and they're going to have to if they're going to want to actually make a difference this year. Or you could listen to Steve Kerr, and this season's a wash for year 3, and you miss the playoffs for the 4th time in 6 years. But trade his ass. He makes $13 million and change. You can flip that. They better flip that. Otherwise, this season is toast. You already have your Dennis Schroeder and Brandon Pajemski, you moron. It's insane. The amount of grace this man has earned, sadly, by just being in a position of power when the team won 4 championships, it's absurd. Because the moment that roster was no longer stacked, he got exposed. The missing the playoffs for the 4th time in 6 years is a joke if that's what happens. And right now, that's what the team is heading towards. Let's go to Hassan in Texas. Actually, I can't go to you, man. It says your mic and your camera are not connected. So I guess we can't do that. So anyways, or I can't go to you. That was absurd. That was just an absurd attribution from Steve Kerr. Dumb. All right. Cheer Butterfly 17 asking who is Lyle. I think someone in the chat was referencing Trey Lyles of the Sacramento Kings, who is reportedly on the trading block. I would not mind him on the Warriors. Do not bring up Jonathan Kuminga for Trey Lyles trade. Here's the bottom line. Before we get to the Kuminga discussion, in terms of like the one team I found that you can make a trade where Kaminga's a part of it and you're not getting back regret, right? This Warriors game tonight. Picture the Golden State Warriors without Jonathan Kuminga. Okay? And picture this game tonight if the Warriors did not have Kaminga. They would have gotten their asses kicked. All right? They would have gotten their asses kicked in the Lakers game. They're getting their asses kicked in a lot of these games. So if you trade Kaminga and you're not bringing back someone who's exciting, who's young, and who gives you some hope for the future, you're the loser of that trade, plain and simple. Because Stephen Curry and Draymond Green are already at a point where they're not playing back-to-backs anymore, right? At any point, either of them could get hurt. Like, seriously hurt. And then your championship aspirations are done, and then you got to look toward the future. You trade Kaminga for nothing. You trade him for, let's say, a Vucevic or a Cam Johnson. Your future hopes are done, and your present is cooked. Kaminga's already one of the team's best players, and he also represents hope for the future. He represents an exciting brand of basketball, especially when he's on the court with other youngsters like Pajemski, Trace, Moody. And it's so sad that so many people can see this, but not Steve Kerr. He doesn't see it. He clearly does not see it. If he did, you would see those guys actually playing. So this trade I'm gonna recommend tonight that I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to get the old trade machine, ratchet up. Let me share my screen right now. We're at that point. Do we want the strip club music? This is dedicated to Damien LaRoche, who writes in the chat, Golden Dazer, that Joe Lacob will not get rid of Kaminga. Again, this is just a hypothetical trade, and I do hope you're right. I think trading Kaminga would be one of the dumbest moves the Warriors could do for the two reasons I mentioned. Relevancy. Picture this game tonight. If Jonathan Kuminga is not on the team, you're not watching this game at all. The absolute worst position for the Warriors to be in is not them being a bad team. It's them being an irrelevant team. A team that is so uninteresting, you're not even watching the games anymore. That's what they are without Kaminga. All right? So if we're going to talk about Kaminga trades, they got to get something back that's exciting. And they got to get something back that gives you hope for the future. But I'm totally with you, Damien LaRoche. I do not want him traded, but there's clearly something there that's amiss between him and Steve Kerr. And as Han Solo Dolo writes, I'm not there yet, but it's getting closer and closer. And oh, man, I feel like I want to vomit just even thinking about just throwing in the white towel after such a strong start for this team, after so much hope and optimism, and then Steve Kerr does the Steve Kerr things. I'm not quite there yet in terms of giving up on the season. But oh yeah, the music, strip club music. Let me real quick start. Oh, I want to really quickly call out Rex Stone in the chat, who's uttering the same rhetoric, the same propaganda that all of Kerr's apologists love to espouse, which is that Kaminga's inconsistent play is not on Kerr. Kerr controls his minutes, bud. Okay? Look at Stephen Curry, his rookie year, averaged 36 minutes a game. Jason Tatum, look at his rookie stats and even his second-year stats. Not impressive. I think he was putting up like 13 points a game, 15 points a game, so somewhere in that range. He was playing 30 minutes a night from his rookie season on. Franz Wagner. And these are just examples of the majority of cases. Franz Wagner, who a lot of people bring up because he was taken right after Kaminga, has never averaged below 30 minutes a game in his career. And if you want consistency, you got to give consistent minutes. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. I don't know why this is just going over the heads of so many people. But you're not getting consistency from Kaminga because you're not giving him consistent minutes. Take tonight. He got minutes. At a bare minimum, you're getting numbers. You're getting that effort. You're getting a team that at least stayed in the game until the end. Do not forget, relevancy is vitally important. You become irrelevant, you're done. You're the Warriors pre-Lacob. That's what they were. Don't approach that territory, please. Alan Day in the chat, dropping $4.99. Thank you. Saying Steve Kerr called for a like an intentional foul to sub out Lindy Waters in the middle of that fourth quarter run. I do remember that. And that, oh my God, you're right. I forgot all about that. And that put Chris Dunn, I believe is his first name, at the line. The Clippers went to the bonus. Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that boneheaded play. And then Damian LaRoche dropping $2, saying, "Give me the music." Here we go. Let's get some of that strip club tunes. All right. When I say strip club tunes, I'm referring to Grand Theft Auto strip club tunes. Like, that's an extra level of sauciness. All right. So let me see if there's anything else on the chat that needs to get addressed. Coast to Coast is actually pointing a finger at a Stephen Curry for allowing this system to keep being used by Steve. Here's what I'll say to that real fast, all right? Because I hear what you're saying. I get it. You're basically saying that Stephen Curry needs to be held accountable for some of these roster decisions because you know Steve Kerr is going to listen to him. It's not who he is, okay? Stephen Curry is not someone who's very confrontational. He's not someone who likes to stir up drama. He's also someone who is about as busy as any human being can ever be. He's got a family with 4 kids, and they're happy. Do you realize how much work that takes? Folks with kids and who have families will understand that. That will resonate with them. He has 4 children and a wife, and they look happy. That takes work. Not just money. You got to put time in for that. So he's got that. He's got all the off-the-court ventures with Under Armour, his media company, endorsements. And then he has the game of basketball itself, which includes taking care of his body, practice. He is still communicating with his teammates. And then now you also want him to take on a GM role. And you want him to be more vocal to Kerr and everyone else regarding these ridiculous roster constructions. I get it. I'm just trying to tell you that it's not who he is as a person. And I don't know if that you can realistically ever expect that from him. And I'm not going to judge him for that. But I get the frustration. I do. Richard Marquez, another Golden Dazer, thank you, sir, saying that things are looking up. There was a Guy Santos sighting. I know, that was fascinating. That was on the 4th. I like that, man. There's something positive about seeing the Warriors youngsters out there and being productive. I mean, they lost this game, but they kept it close. And that's what happens if you give up the youth and just go all in on some sort of veteran team. One injury and you're cooked. You're done for the year. You're done for the future. It's such a big risk, which is why this Kaminga trade. And here's I'm going to tell you how the reaction is going to be to what I'm going to propose to you, to all of you in the audience. A third of you will get it. A third of you who follows along with everything I say on this program, you'll understand it right away. You'll say, okay, I get it. You're factoring Steve Kerr into this. You're factoring, which is really going to be the biggest part, right? Because Steve Kerr doesn't want to trade Wiggins. So this trade does not involve Wiggins. It's going to get rid of a lot of the young pieces that Kerr doesn't trust. Moses Moody, Kaminga, maybe Trace Jackson Davis. And so the third of you who are Golden Dazers or who at least follows my logic and understands it, you'll get it right away. 2/3 of you, I'm guessing, are going to be like, what the F are you proposing here? Hell to the no. Why are you saying this? Thanks for wasting my time for this massive tease. Then you're going to think about it. And then I'm going to guess by tomorrow, 2/3 will get it. And a third will just forever be like, no, that's not something I want. But keep in mind, pragmatism is the name of the game here. And when I say pragmatism, I mean Steve Kerr. Okay? Because I've given up hope that the Warriors are going to do anything about him. And that's depressing as all hell, but it's the reality that we're in. This is the price that Dub Nation pays for the 2014-15 championship. 10 years later. 3 more titles after that, but those 3 had nothing to do with Kerr. My mom wins 2 championships with those KD teams if she's coaching them. True story, I believe that. All right, let's get out the let's get out the trade machine. There's just want to see if there's anything else in the chat I need to address. Evanistics dropping $1.99 saying that the Kerr defenders clearly only watch the ball. All right. Anything else in the chat? Steve White saying Steve Kerr and Kyle Shanahan. What's the difference? There is actually a huge difference. Kyle Shanahan has never won one, right? I mean, he's never shown he can do it. This is a Niners show, but I mean, I think it's safe to say if you're a Niners fan, you know full well that Kyle Shanahan, if your team is losing and he's the head coach, you're done. There's like virtually no chance of a comeback. Steve Kerr has at least shown he can win. And part of the reasoning for the trade I'm about to propose factors in the concept that Steve Kerr can do it. You just got to put the damn perfect roster in order for him to win. And I guess you could say that for pretty much any coach, but that's the reality that we are in. And Oprah in the chat saying Wiggins has been the most consistent player this season. Maybe. It's not saying a lot. But tonight was inexcusable, and the last game, because a lot of people vouch for him for his defense. And again, this trade proposal will not include Andrew Wiggins. This is a Kerr-friendly trade proposal. All right, here we go. Is there anything else? Anyone else has paid for anything? Okay, so let me share my screen. We'll get the trade machine I'm going to use here is ESPN's. It has been accurate this season for the aesthetics of the show. It seems to serve the best purpose. All right, so we got our screen bigger. Team one of the trade machine is going to be the Golden State Warriors, obviously. Now, who are we going to include in this trade? Dennis Schroeder has to go. Has to go. If you want to keep Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder has to go. Oh, I can't include him until I get the second team. All right. So the second team, the trade partner that's going to be, in order to make this a reality, and again, I completely understand if 2/3 of you just look at this and go, what? Hell no, right? Give it some time, think about it. A lot of you will come around. And again, keep in mind, this is entirely because of Steve Kerr and the fact that he doesn't know how to develop players. In his 10 plus years as a head coach, has never developed one rookie or second-year player, ever. Every young player under his watch has regressed. The evidence is out there. So, and see, there we go. There's more. James Boehm saying, Schroeder just got here, bro. So what? He's in his 30s. He's a veteran. What does time have to do with his shot not falling in? I don't like excuses, folks, all right? Get rid of those. Stop making excuses for failures, okay? It's pathetic. All right, so the other team is going to be the Portland Trail Blazers. All right, and the reason why the Portland Trail Blazers are your second team in this trade is because unlike nearly every other team mentioned in trade discussions with the Golden State Warriors, they have young assets they could send back. Okay? That's important. Because if you're going to trade Kaminga, you're not going to trade him for old dudes. You got to get some young talent back. Right away, Johnny says Portland won't do it. Why? They're a rebuilding team. They want expirings. There's a lot of assets they want to move. Don't just say that because you don't know shit. Shut the fuck up. Sorry, but I'm serious. Shut up. You have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, so sorry for the F-bomb there. I try to avoid dropping that on a show. But seriously, shut the F up. Okay. Now, who are the Warriors going to ship out? They're going to ship out Dennis Schroeder. I mean, he's 6'1". Three-point shot sucks. Defense is overrated. Bye. And again, Steve Kerr's perfect team stays put. Stephen Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, your top three earners are not going anywhere in this trade proposal. Gary Payton II is obviously going somewhere. Expiring deal, right? Remember, Portland is tanking. They want Cooper Flagg as much as anybody. Kevon Looney is gone. Expiring deal. Also makes $8 million. So right there, those three players, you're sending out $30 million. We're going to send out Jonathan Kuminga because if you don't trade him soon, either Steve Kerr is going to ruin him or he's never going to meet expectations. All right, so getting caught up in the music here. Oh, sorry to interrupt this this show. I saw an image that I have to share with the audience. It just looked good. Mike Brown is head coach of the Warriors. Okay, let's go back to the trade machine. All right, we continue on. So, Jonathan Kuminga is in the trade block. I'm also going to include Moses Moody. Why? Because clearly, Steve Kerr does not trust him. Clearly, so he's gone. So right there, you have 5 players going out with a combined salary of $43 million. Now, who are you getting back? Jeremy Grant, a player Portland is desperate to get rid of. And then this is where it gets fun, because in return for Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, you will have the leverage to ask for a young piece back. That young piece can be Shaedon Sharpe. That young piece could be Scoot Henderson. And the reason why I'm going to select for this exercise here Scoot, because he's a point guard. Remember, this is the perfect Steve Kerr trade. All right? The dude loves little people. He loves them hobbits. He loves ball handlers, because apparently in Steve Kerr's eyes, that's the most important skill set in the NBA, even though in reality that's complete malarkey. And Man Ape saying, why would they give up Shaedon Sharpe? Well, I'm not including Shaedon Sharpe. Here, I'll take Shaedon Sharpe out. Okay? He's not even in there. Scoot Henderson's in there, all right? So right now, you've got a deal that brings back Jeremy Grant and Scoot Henderson. You can also add some other pieces to this. You don't want Anthony Simons, and I know Portland's trying to give him up as well. He makes way too much money. That you could also, in addition to that, you could ask for Donovan Clingan. You can get a combo of younger pieces, like let's say Chris Murray and Duop Reith. Duop Reith has a lot of size. He's underrated in my opinion. Chris Murray spaces the floor. He's 6'8". Again, the perfect Steve Kerr trade. All right, very important to keep that in mind. My point is, this is your trade. You could get creative with it. You could include Trace. You could again, Donovan Clingan. I don't know much about him. I don't know if he's worth it. You could get aggressive and add Robert Williams III to it. But if you want to trade Kaminga, I don't know of a better team than Portland. And Craig Ross saying not realistic. Why? Elaborate, sir. Why is it not realistic? Now, Bree CS is saying Kerr won't play Clingan, so let's not include Clingan then, all right? Maybe it's Robert Williams III. Maybe you want to get a veteran in there. Or maybe you want to go Duop Reith, who makes next to nothing, and his specialty is shot blocking. The point is, the dude's like a 7-footer who can play in the inside, and he's cheap. Julian Leka says, why not with the Wizards? What young piece are you going to get back from the Wizards that you're excited about? That Steve Kerr would be excited about. Remember, Steve Kerr is now pretty much the GM of this team and has been for close to 5 years. That's why Bob Myers left. So, if there's someone I looked at the Wizards. Simon 2 is also saying they'll never do that trade. Who are you talking about specifically? The Warriors or the Blazers? Touch of Madness saying Kyle Kuzma. Dude, he's not. I'm not giving up Kaminga for him. Kuzma's he's pushing 30. He makes a ton of money. No, hard pass. Bree CS is saying, will they get Brandon Ingram? You can get Brandon Ingram for nothing. The problem with Brandon Ingram is, and trust me on that, that's a true story. The Pelicans want to get rid of him for nothing. There is no demand for him, which is psychotic in my opinion. I love Brandon Ingram on the Warriors. The problem is he played for Steve Kerr in that World Cup fiasco, that same World Cup fiasco where Steve Kerr declared Austin Reeves to be the best player on that team. Asinine. If that didn't hit you like a ton of bricks, that Steve Kerr is delusional, I don't know what ever will. He thought Austin Reeves was the best player on that team. He did not like Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram fell completely out of favor with Steve Kerr. That's the reason why I rarely, if ever, bring him up. Now, Kev F says trade with Nola, and I'm thinking with the New Orleans Pelicans, Zion Williamson. Yeah, that's a nice plan B. Will the Warriors go for that? Will picky, peculiar Steve Kerr go for that? I don't know. Nick the Greek saying, I want Josh Giddey on this team. He can't shoot, though, dude. He can't shoot. I don't mind the size. If you're going to swap Pajemski for him, fine, but he can't shoot, dude. That's the sad reality of Josh Giddey and why I don't get excited about him. Zal saying, what about trading with the Pistons? They're not giving up Cade Cunningham. That's like the centerpiece of their team. They love Cade. He's not going anywhere. Now Macchiano is saying, can Kaminga be traded for a first-round pick? In theory, yes. I mean, first-round picks, draft picks don't count for value, so you'd have to actually include players to make a Kaminga trade work in that instance. But that is the worst-case scenario for a trade that involves Kaminga is to compensate for losing him with draft picks. The problem with that is, I always side on the certain player instead of a draft pick where you have no idea where it's going to end up. You have no idea if you're going to have like a draft like this past season or like the James Wiseman draft. Some drafts suck, right? So if your draft pick ends up in a year like that, you just lost Kaminga, who's going to be putting up 30 points a game probably for another team. For what, right? Like a number 15 pick in a weak draft? Like, I don't know if that's it. Richard Marquez brings up the Raptors. I studied them, but who are you getting back? Who are you getting back that brings you value for Jonathan Kuminga? See, this is the tricky part. This is why Portland was the only team I could settle on, because Scoot Henderson still gives you hope. Scoot Henderson is a young prospect who plays a position that Steve Kerr actually values, right? In his mind, he wants 5 Scoot Hendersons out there. So great. Scoot Henderson's also an Under Armour product, I believe. I know him and Stephen Curry worked out together that summer before Scoot got drafted. So you kind of got like a Steph successor suddenly in-house. All right. And Nick the Greek bringing up that Giddey only makes $10 million. I think it's actually a little less than that, but he's on the same contract as Jonathan Kuminga, meaning he's going to be a restricted free agent after this year, and someone's going to give him probably $20 million a season. I mean, someone's going to give him something. This is the last year, is what I'm trying to say, of his rookie deal. So don't let that dollar amount fool you. He's going to make a lot more starting next season, just like Kaminga. Kuminga's going to make a lot more next year too. Simon 2 proposing an interesting idea, which is do nothing and just let this team flail out. Let me, my screen should show that. There you go. Here's the thing: if you make this trade, right? Let's say for argument's sake, we proceed with this trade, okay? And I think we got to include one more player. So why don't we do like Lindy Waters, so that because he's another expiring deal. He doesn't bring anything to the table. You can live with that. Bam, trade is successful, right? So you're trading Dennis Schroeder, GP2, Kevon Looney, Kaminga, Moody, Lindy Waters. You're getting back Jeremy Grant, Scoot Henderson, Chris Murray, Duop Reith. Think about how that looks short term for the Golden State Warriors, right? Jeremy Grant will be a difference maker, and his presence alone immediately upgrades this team. I don't think Jeremy Grant's that old either. Let me see. I don't know his age. Here, let me look it up. But Jeremy Grant is 30 years old. Okay, so he's not old, but he's not young. So you're getting a veteran. Again, another Steve Kerr player, right? He loves his veterans. Jeremy Grant would be an immediate boost. He'd be perfectly fine playing the 4, even though that's slightly out of position for him. He's another son of an NBA player. More progenies on board. Jeremy Grant's dad was Harvey Grant, the twin brother of Horace Grant, famed power forward with the Chicago Bulls for the first 3 championships. Also was a power forward alongside Shaq on those Orlando teams. Horace's twin brother Harvey also played in the NBA, and that is Jeremy Grant's dad. So you can also have that pedigree. Oh, and here's the best part. or not the best part, but another plus. Richard Marquez saying, bringing up Kevin Knox, who's lighting it up in the G League. Under this deal, because you're giving up 2 players, you have to fill those 2 roster spots with the cheapest contracts imaginable. Welcome to the Golden State Warriors, Kevin Knox. How do you like them apples, huh? Julian Leka saying, trade Kaminga to the Spurs because he'd flourish alongside Wemby. I don't give a shit if he'd flourish alongside Wemby. I want the Spurs to lose. I want the Spurs to flail. I want Wemby to struggle the rest of his career. Hell to the no. Bill M. writing, I somewhat agree on the draft picks and thank you for the donation, but I don't think we're getting back enough for Kaminga. Scoot's okay, but a number 1, 2. Again, this is not a trade I'm advocating for. This is a trade that, considering Steve Kerr and his damn pickiness, his peculiarities, this is the best you're gonna get. If you want to salvage this season where you're still relevant, you're still good, but you're not just waving a white flag for the future, this is your deal. And then Steve Kerr can be challenged with developing yet another player, and he'll probably fail at that too, but Julian, I'll save the preview in just a moment for tomorrow's Warriors-Suns game. We'll finish up with that. Bobby Mira is saying, like, who would want Lindy Waters? Keep in mind, the Portland Trailblazers are a rebuilding team, right? Lindy Waters is a non-guaranteed expiring deal. They could waive him the moment he gets there, okay? Keep that in mind, all right? Like, there's about 7 teams in the NBA who are giving up anything because they want to suck and get the best draft position possible next year. Portland's one of them. John Holmes, famous porn star. This music's apropos, brother. Hey now. Writing trade Wiggins. Kev F saying I'd rather keep Kaminga. Agreed. LT saying Jeremy Grant's too tall for Steve Kerr. Bree CS saying bring Mike Brown back as an assistant coach. Sign me up. Absolutely. Mike Brown was solid, dude. He was fantastic. And then Han Solo Dolo with the even more pragmatic response to this pragmatic trade. So depressing though. This is morbid, Han Solo. Come on now. Writing that this team is not making any trades. They're keeping their picks. They're riding the old guys to the ground, to the dirt. And that's that. Simon 2 saying, why not trade with the Nuggets? For who? I mean, who on the Nuggets are you willing to trade Kaminga for? Porter Jr. is not. That is not worth it. That dude could get injured at any point. That dude is very one-dimensional, and I don't know who else you could trade for. All right, I guess that's it. Any final thoughts from anyone? I'm just checking the chat. And then Link 1879 saying, Steve Kerr doesn't want to look up to players. He needs that eye level. I know, he clearly has an affinity for certain types of players, and I think height plays a big part of that. I do agree, James Bohm, that the Nuggets want to dump Michael Porter Jr. Again, if it's Michael Porter Jr. for Wiggins, sign me up. But A, Kaminga doesn't make enough money. B, that's a lopsided trade. Not interested. I do agree that Denver would welcome Kaminga, but who are you giving back? Craig Ross is saying Aaron Gordon. A, I don't think the Nuggets would give him up. They like him alongside Jokic. And B, do you really think Steve Kerr wants a guy like that who can't really shoot the three? I know technically he can, but do you really think he's a Steve Kerr type player? All right. We're back at this tomorrow. Yeah, one of my good friends texting that the Kings were dumb for getting rid of Mike Brown. The Warriors tomorrow. Let's get rid of this music. All right, we're done with the trade. If there's any final thoughts on the trade, drop them in there. But again, that's your deal. Keeps you relevant now, gives you a piece for the future. It's a trade that Steve Kerr would accept in the sad reality that Joe Lacob continues entertaining Steve Kerr's opinions about roster construction, even though we already saw what he did as a GM. It was a disaster for the Phoenix Suns. Kerr was great as just the coach, right? Somewhere around 2020, he began meddling with this roster. He started to put input in, and that's when it all started to get screwed up. He was just, stay in your lane, coach. A lot of Bill Belichick vibes with Steve Kerr. All right, let's tomorrow the Warriors play the Phoenix Suns. Talking about reeling teams. All right, let's get this music off. That was fun, but all right. Bye, ladies. Bye. Hope I tipped you enough. Peace out. All right. Finishing up the show here. The Warriors are right back. And yes, Man Ape. I did. This is part of the reason why I looked at Duop Reith. He is 6'11", and yes, he shoots 36% from three. Solid defensive player. I factored him into this. I promise you that. He would be good for this team. All right. Warriors are playing the Suns, and that's going to lead to the scoreboard and a preview of tomorrow's game. But let's start with the scores real fast here. And then I'll go to the preview. Around the NBA, I guess the music was good, huh? I got a little too quiet. Once you start listening to the music. All right, DJ, you're back. Got way too quiet there. It became like, didn't like it. All right, around the NBA, the association, the Phoenix Suns are tied with the Warriors at 15-15, I believe. Let me double check that because ESPN is just, it's sad that you can't trust their website anymore. You can't. They routinely miss. See, ESPN right now still lists the Warriors as a 15-14 team. Come on now. But then they list the Phoenix Suns as a 15-15 team. Well, regardless, the Phoenix Suns tonight, they are reeling. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This time losing to the Dallas Mavericks, 98-89 the final. This was in Phoenix. 1 second here, I apologize. Kevin Durant had 35 points in this game. Kleber had 15.7 rebounds. That's who ESPN is listing as a top performer. Luka Doncic has been out, so the Mavericks are still winning despite that, which is a good sign for them. Dallas improves to 20-11. Again, the Suns, I believe, are now 15-15. And the good news for the Warriors is both teams are playing the second half of a back-to-back. I like that. It's always such an unfair competitive advantage when one team is playing the second of a back-to-back and the other team is not. I've never understood why the NBA schedules things like that. So thankfully, the Warriors are not going to be at a disadvantage because of tired legs. The Cleveland Cavaliers, well, this was a doozy tonight in Denver. Cleveland and Denver and the Cavs, 149-135 winners over the Nuggets. The Cavaliers improving to 27-4. The Nuggets dropping to 16-13. Nikola Jokic, 27 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists in the loss. Spida, Davion Mitchell, 33 points, 6 assists in the win for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Memphis Grizzlies defeating the New Orleans Pelicans tonight, 132-124, another high-scoring affair. Jaren Jackson Jr., who would be perfect in a Warriors uniform, but Memphis would never give him up. 33 points, 4 steals, 3 blocks in the win. CJ McCollum, 32 points in the loss. The Minnesota Timberwolves, this is another great game. They took on the Houston Rockets in Houston. They win tonight, 113-112. Julius Randle, 27 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists in the win. The Houston Rockets, led by Alperen Sengun, who had 38 points, 12 rebounds. Minnesota improves to 15-14. The Rockets drop to 21-10. The San Antonio Spurs, 96-87 winners over the Brooklyn Nets. Victor Wembanyama, 19.7 rebounds, 6 blocks in the win. Victor Wembanyama is going to break the blocks record easily. That's crazy. Shake Milton, 16 points, 12 assists in the loss for the Brooklyn Nets, who convinced the Golden State Warriors that Dennis Schroeder would be a good pickup. Boston, 142-105 winners tonight over the Pacers. Jaylen Brown, 44 points, 4 steals in the win for the Berkeley product. Tyrese Halliburton, 19 points, 9 assists in the loss for the Pacers. Boston improves to 23-8. Indiana drops to 15-17. And lastly, the New York Knicks, 108-85 winners over the Orlando Magic, who are just injury-riddled. Jalen Brunson, 26 points, 9 assists in the win. Jalen Suggs, 27 points in the loss for Orlando. And going back to the Suns, who, again, I'm sorry to keep saying this, but they are struggling. There's a few teams out there who the Warriors can sympathize with. And in terms of who the Warriors will face tomorrow, Devin Booker has been hurt. And I'm going to check his status right now. So 6 hours ago, head coach Mike Budenholzer, again, that honeymoon long over, said that Booker, who's been dealing with a groin issue, will be sidelined for Saturday's game against the Warriors. So that's great news because Devin Booker is a Warriors killer. So the Suns will not have Devin Booker, which likely means that the Suns will go with a lineup that includes Tyus Jones as their starting point guard, Bradley Beal playing his natural shooting guard position, Kevin Durant, Yusuf Nurkic, who may or may not play. He got into a fight tonight. I definitely recommend checking out those highlights. There were some actual punches thrown. Nothing connected, but yeah, there were a couple of haymakers out there, or at least one semi-legitimate punch. I think Nurkic started it with a slap attempt. So that should be fun. Grayson Allen, at least according to my sheet here, is listed as out. Grayson Allen had a concussion, and he missed the Mavericks game. I don't know what his status will be for the Warriors game tomorrow, so we shall find out about that. But he missed tonight's game again because of a concussion. And then the Suns have a roster that includes Monte Morris, Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, Mason Plumlee always is just a pest when he plays the Warriors. So he's going to be a center that the Warriors will have to deal with. I like the Warriors' chances in this one, though, considering, again, that Devin Booker is out. Grayson Allen, we don't know. Bol has been missing games. You might be laughing that I brought him up, but dude's 7'3", and he usually plays pretty well against the Warriors. So he's not hurt. I think it's just a roster thing. And then the Suns still have Damian Lee of the 2022 title team fame, Stephen Curry's brother-in-law. They also have Josh Okogie, who a year ago was badass, and then this year for some reason can't find minutes. I don't know if that's a Budenholzer thing. I don't know what's going on in Phoenix, but I'm looking forward to that game tomorrow. And then courtesy of BetOnline, I'm going to check out the spread to see if there's any news on that. And then if there's any sound from Steve Kerr, we'll finish up the show with some more sound from him or any other players if that has come down tonight. If not, then we just won't. What are you going to do? So the line, I'm on BetOnline's website right now, and the Warriors and the Suns line is out. The Warriors, and that game's going to be at home at Chase Center, favored by 6. And I'm guessing the Devin Booker injury is playing a part in that. Stephen Curry being rested is playing a part in that. Carson Taylor dropping $1.99 asking if the Warriors should be interested in Domantas Sabonis. Hell to the yes. Now the question is going to be like, what's the asking price? I mean, Sacramento's not giving him up for nothing. Let me see how old Domantas Sabonis is. I think that bears a lot of relevancy in this discussion. The Kings, by the way, 13-18 on the season. De'Aaron Fox has a huge contract extension approaching. And the debate is whether or not he's worthy of a max deal. He's a good player. I don't know if he's worth the max. But let's look at Domantas Sabonis. Again, age is important when it comes to him. Oh, he's only 28, so his birthday is May 3rd. So he won't turn 29 until the end. So he'll be 29 next year. I'd do it. Hell yeah. I mean, again, I'd be curious to know what the Kings would want. I'd be curious to know if Steve Kerr would sign off on that because it's a big, right? Sign me up. Absolutely. People bringing on my buddy Larry Krueger about what? What was he correct about? Are you talking about the wins? The Warriors going with he went with a 38 win prediction to start the season. Yeah, he did. Good call on him. That is looking damn good now. The Warriors. I mean, when is this going to end? The slide. Jesus Christ. They're 500 now. They got to win some games here. I feel good about tomorrow night, though. I think the Warriors will pull that one off. And then last but not least, looking at the standings, and I can't trust ESPN anymore. I'm going to go to the NBA's website to see what the standings are there. So right now, the Golden State Warriors, again, they dropped to 15-15. Phoenix is also 15-15. And this is where it gets even more depressing, folks. If the season ended today, the Golden State Warriors would not even be in the play-in. Tonight's loss drops them to 11th in the West. 9.5 games behind the OKC Thunder. The Phoenix Suns are listed ahead of them in the standings. Both teams have identical records. Phoenix currently listed as 10th in the West. The San Antonio Spurs have leapfrogged both those teams. They're now 9th with a 16-15 record. Minnesota's 8th, Denver's 7th. And then your top 6 playoff teams right now, if the season ended today: OKC, Memphis, Houston, Dallas, the Clippers, who won tonight, and the LA Lakers. There you go. All right. Carson Taylor saying, start Kaminga. Jason Bohm bringing up Nikola Vucevic. Sign me up for him. Available for nothing. What are the Warriors waiting for? Yeah, it sucks. This sucks. All right. That is it. Thank you as always for joining us. We will be back tomorrow night. Saturday Night Live edition of Golden Days. Let's hope they win. All right. It is the old adage, one game at a time. That's what the Warriors got to do. They got to do something though. This roster sucks. Their coach sucks. Jesus Christ. They got to do something. And I apologize for being negative. I just don't know how else to be, I'm just straight shooting's my game, man. And this is just ugly. Everything about this is ugly, including the head coach. It's just this sucks. This absolutely sucks. Thank you all, though. Look, misery loves company. At least we're in this together. Thank you again for joining the program. And let's hope between now and tomorrow we get some news, any news about a trade, about a move. I agree, Craig Ross. Tomorrow is a must-win. Kenneth 29, it is brutal. The Warriors were first in the West, and they're now 11th. Thank you, everyone, again, though. It's the holidays. I hope you're having fun out there despite the Warriors not contributing to the happiness factor. But thanks again for joining the program. Back at this in a day, and hopefully it'll be a better result tomorrow night. Props to Jonathan Kuminga. Did have a fantastic game. Great things do happen when he plays. It's just he doesn't play all the time. There's only one man who controls that. Bye, everyone. Back to... Bye-bye.